education, quality private education. So it exists in Ghana today, wide disparity between the provision of public education and private education. There exists wide disparity in respect of rural-urban education. The people in the rural areas cannot access quality education. So whilst we celebrate today, government must reflect and ponder over what it is that it needs to do to avoid inequality growing in our country. COVID may produce another set of poverty. In fact, yesterday it is reported that 500 million people in the world are likely to fall into the poverty line arising out of poverty. I have even said that the United Nations General Assembly, if it meets, I'm sure it was a UNGA decision to have this day declared. They probably, even the targets they set for us as countries on the Sustainable Development Goals, they have to redefine it and redefine the time periods, because many countries will not be able to meet the targets, even the target that is relating to education. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend the maker of the statement, but let it wake us up that we need to do something about Ghanaian children in what is called the Saito schools, the public schools. They don't have Zooms in their homes. They don't even have television sets in their homes. And Mr. Speaker, I say so because if they lose their foundation years, forget it. This is the only period they can learn numeracy and literacy. And if you have school children sit at home for 8 months, you know, Mr. Speaker, I end with this real joke. In Tamale, in my constituency, between Wamale and Chanjeni, many of the young people were now learning to play catapult, tire, though when there was no school. This is a real story. In the morning, you see them in clusters, and what they were interested in is how to go and chase people with catapult. Is that the youth we are looking forward to train tomorrow? Because they have no access to education. Mothers and fathers became teachers. In fact, many mothers and fathers have appreciated teachers arising out of COVID, because the burden of socialization, which shifted largely to teachers whilst the pupils were in school, now shifted to parents. They will manage them in the morning, manage them in the afternoon, and manage them in the evening with difficulty. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend the maker of the statement, but we should know that in Ghana, we need to take urgent steps to ensure that they don't lose their foundation training and foundation years. With COVID, government must take the necessary urgent steps to provide those personal protection facilities for both teachers and pupils, particularly in public schools. With these few comments, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity, and once again, I commend the maker of the statement.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. And I also want to commend my honorable colleague from Old Trafford for the statement that he has just made. I also want to thank the minority leader for the challenge he has thrown to all of us. Minority leader, I want to assure you, as the Minister of Education designate, if you help me and I become the minister, these are issues that I have been assured will be solved. And with your input, we are going to do a better job educating the children of Ghana in the midst of this pandemic. I think the pandemic serves as a lesson to all of us. When we talk about the disparities we see in terms of education and the fact that Zooms are not available in public school setting and families whose children go to public schools, we must not lose sight of the fact that it is happening because of the digital divide that we find ourselves confronting with in this country. The digital divide therefore finds expression in education divide. And for us to be able to solve the challenge of education divide, we have to go to the root of the problem and solve the digital divide. The good news is that the Ministry of Communication is now looking at rural connectivity. And when you solve the challenges of rural connectivity, that is when families who even have the phones have the opportunity to get signals and be able to help their children do the work. Their children in advance so the rich neighborhoods are able to do. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, there are challenges, but therein lies opportunities for all of us to be able to say that in the midst of the pandemic, that decimated the education system, that actually made the learning poverty worse. You know, learning poverty is generally defined by the World Bank as a phenomenon by which age 10 students who are age 10, children who are age 10 are not able to read or write. In fact, in developing countries, it's about 53% before COVID-19. So you can imagine that with COVID-19, it may be 70% of children who are age 10 not being able to read for understanding. So we have to have all hands on deck. It's not just going to be the Ministry of Education. It's going to be all of us as leaders of this country working under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is determined to ensure that education became that vehicle for socio-economic transformation. So we have an opportunity to support the president and do whatever it takes to ensure that not only would we fight learning poverty pre-COVID-19, but also fight learning poverty post-COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to celebrate the gallant men and women who are called teachers. Teachers are the forefront of socio-economic transformation. They are frontline workers who are doing everything to ensure that our children are educated, that there will be a future for this great nation of ours. So today, teachers, I celebrate you. I also celebrate parents for their courage to support their children, to provide all the necessary resources that their children can also get back to school and do what we need them to do so that we can truly provide education under these difficult circumstances. At this time, education and COVID-19 have become strange bedfellows. And we are going to have to navigate through this, understanding that if we don't, the price we pay will be severe. So do everything possible to ensure that we navigate through this terrain carefully so that our children can benefit from education whilst we protect them from the vagaries of this pandemic that is threatening our very survival. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity.
I cannot identify any more member who wants to contribute. And so I will just make this short comment. Important for us in such situations, try to put some things in the right perspective. You all recall the great illustrious son of Ghana who was born in Choco, called James Emman Kwejiri Agri, one of the forebearers of education in the whole of Africa. I'm referring to this and I'll be quoting his statement because we are often told that he said, if you educate a man, you simply educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. What they fail to tell us is that he predicated this statement with a more profound statement, which says, and I quote, "The surest way to keep people down is to educate the man and neglect the woman." That is a more profound statement. And so this was a revolutionary statement which led to co-education in the Gold Coast and the establishment of the Achimota Secondary School. But what is even more relevant for our purpose is what he said, and I quote, "I don't care what you know. Show me what you can do." So education is not just a matter of degrees. How do you translate that into action, into producing something good for society? And that is why I say, I don't care what you know. Show me what you can do. And so with this, I want to thank the maker of the statement and members who have contributed, and now proceed to the second statement. I've just been informed that our friendly sister or brotherly country, India, is celebrating their Independence Day. So I'll admit a statement to be made today in commemoration of that celebration. But let's take the second statement, which stands in the name of the honorable member for Bole Bamboy, Honorable Suleimana Yusuf. The statement is on the effects of seasonal bushfires on livelihoods and on the economy. Honorable member, you may now make your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make a statement on the important subjects of bushfires, which for many decades has negatively impacted rural livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, January 19, 2021, the Ghana Meteorological Agency issued a press statement on the subject Harmattan Weather Alert. In the statement, the agency knows that from 20th January 2021, Harmattan will intensify as dry and dusty continental winds from Chad will be entering Ghana. The statement cautions that the northern half of our country is expected to be drier with an increased probability of fire outbreaks. It has therefore become extremely necessary for this House to take notice of this issue and to offer valuable insights to the citizenry. Mr. Speaker, lately, the damaging effects of bushfires, especially in the Savannah zone, have been exacerbated by the effects of climate change. The Savannah zone, as we are all aware, Mr. Speaker, is characterized by large expanse of dry fields. Consequently, in the Harmattan season, it is common to see unhindered winds traveling on average at 50 kilometers per hour, and in the process, causing uncontrollable bushfires. The adverse impacts of these fires on rural economics and folks cannot be overemphasized. Mr. Speaker, a social survey conducted by Kissimmee, and Apathy, 2012, show that bushfires have impacted individuals and in some cases whole communities in the form of loss of lives and or property. Mr. Speaker, their survey presented evidence of cases where parts or whole communities are razed down and large tracts of fields of maize, rice, cassava, cashew, mango, etc. destroyed. On households or community level, millions of Ghana cedis in properties are estimated to be lost in the last decades due to major wildfires. Mr. Speaker, aside the above, installations, especially electrical poles, are bent and have to be replaced on a yearly basis. The disruption of power supply resulting from this over the years have negatively affected the socioeconomic activities and livelihoods of citizens, especially those engaged in the sale of food, cold store, and beverage drink businesses. In most cases, these people are forced to discard large quantities of rotten stock at their own expense, without even considering its impact on other small-scale artisanal industries like welding. It is almost impossible to quantify the loss in monetary terms of these annual occurrences. Mr. Speaker, while the effect of bushfires on agricultural and other artisanal productivity is well documented, especially with the 1983 crisis still fresh in the minds of people, its effects on the natural environment has mostly been ignored. Devastating fires alter ecosystems by removing vegetative covers and modifying soil characteristics. Indeed, scientific research has shown that high temperatures destroy soil, organic matter, damage soil structure, and microorganisms. Mr. Speaker, climate change has not only intensified harmattan, it has also altered its onset and longevity. Previously, almost all recorded cases of bushfires outbreaks start from the month of November and should be phasing out by close of January. This statement by the Ghana Meteorological Agency I referred to shows that things have changed. Mr. Speaker, what has not changed is the human causes of bushfires and the ways by which people can protect themselves against these fires. Mr. Speaker, anthropogenic activities account for almost all the fires in this country. In every part of this country, fire is generally accepted as a valuable tool in the management of natural vegetation. Farmers, in a lot of cases, use fires to clear lands for farming, particularly during the dry season. Herdsmen also use fires as a tool to encourage quick regrowth of fresh grazing pastures for their animals, just as the activities of charcoal burners and hunters. Mr. Speaker, while the use of fires in these instances enumerated above are for economic purposes, the accidental spillovers of these fires is the cause of concern. Mr. Speaker, the economic activities of one person must not affect that of other people. There are reports of people losing hundreds of acres of crop fields because someone else is trying to smoke out a rat. This cannot be acceptable. The expected rewards from such endeavors, Mr. Speaker, are not worth the cost occasioned by these destructive annual fires. The cost of these fires on an annual basis is becoming too huge to bear by our countrymen and women in the rural areas. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, it is high time we found solutions to these menaces. In this regard, I suggest we look at this on three levels: individual, community, and national. On an individual level, Mr. Speaker, I recommend a coordinated educational program aimed at effecting attitudinal change and showing people the impact of their activities. On a communal level, the Ghana Fire Service must be encouraged to continue and improve its community fire committee program, where committees of young men are formed in every community and trained to act as the first line of defense in case of a fire outbreak. This program appears to be very dormant and in most cases non-existent in most parts of the North. I implore the Chief Fire Officer, as a matter of policy, to convey this to his district officers, the need for these committees to be formed, as soon as possible. Indeed, PNDC Law 229 sanctions the creation of bushfire control subcommittees in every district. Mr. Speaker, these committees, where they exist, should lead efforts in fire prevention and control in these communities. Where necessary, the Assembly Subcommittee must guide burning of bushes in controlled manner to avoid accidental spillovers. On the national level, Mr. Speaker, the desire of successive governments to enforce and, when necessary, strengthen the law on bushfire appears to be the bane of this issue. Mr. Speaker, PNDC Law 229 must be enforced fully. District assemblies must be made to perform their duties as set out in the law. The punitive measures as captured in Section 11I and II must be enforced to deter people from engaging in bush burning. Mr. Speaker, I encourage government to treat this issue with urgency. We must be guided by happenings in other countries. Mr. Speaker, the bushfires in California sometimes last year led to catastrophic losses, and that alone must act as a wake-up call for us in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, COVID has already ravaged the livelihoods of many Ghanaians. Bushfires will further compound our woes if uncontrolled. I believe that the suggestions I have made above will go a long way to protect all of us. I thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Honorable members, this is a statement that falls under Order 72. And so comments will be guided by that standing order. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the statement made by my senior colleague on bushfires, which is truly having a devastating effect on our environment. Right Honorable Speaker, bushfires, normally recorded in this part of our world, comes in during the dry season, the Harmattan time, and it's normally within the November and October, November to March. Right Honorable Speaker, if not the SDG, which also talks about SDG number 15, which talks about the life. It talks about activities of human in supporting the environment. One of these activities is protecting the soil and its nutrients to make things to able to improve our normal lives. Bushfire, as stated by the maker of the statement, is something that is causing the farmer to lose a lot on the activities in their various farmlands. Right Honorable Speaker, it is important to say that 100% of these bushfires happens within the northern part of our country. And it is important to note also that it is in line with some of our colleagues or our people looking for their daily lives. Right Honorable Speaker, charcoal is one of the main sources of livelihood for some of our colleagues there. Right Honorable Speaker, in going through this process, they end up causing these bushfires. Right Honorable Speaker, it is also important to note that some of these bushfires are caused by these normal nomadic farmers. It is important also to note that normal peasant farmers also contribute to this increase in bushfires. However, as the statement of the maker said, it is important that we find a lasting solution to enable us be able to have a harmonized policy that will help fight these bushfires across the country. Indeed, the statement maker suggested the idea of community groups. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll also bring on board that we bring on board the school clubs. The clubs, in terms of bushfire clubs, that will help these children to assimilate at the early stages the effect of bushfires within their communities. Right Honorable Speaker, I will also support the statement maker that in trying to help the issue, it is important to practice tree planting. It is important that we enhance our tree planting in our various constituencies. As leaders, let's take up that charge. Let's take up that role to support tree planting to enable us fight bush fires as stated by my senior colleague. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member. Oh.
Very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to associate myself with the statement that has been made by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Bali. The Speaker, indeed, bushfires continue to cause havoc in many parts of this country. And a lot of data shows, especially how it has affected food production over the years. It has also highlighted its effects on our environment, especially the forest cover of our country. But Mr. Speaker, an area that has not been highlighted much over the years by research as an effect of bushfire is its effect also lately to electrification across the country. Mr. Speaker, in many communities in the north, you are likely to be faced with the inability of the Electricity Company of Ghana or the Northern Electricity Department, NEDCO, their inability to connect these communities to the national grid as a result of bushfires that affect the electric poles that are usually erected. In some communities, years after the poles are planted, every season when the poles are affected, the ability of the company to connect these communities to electricity is affected because the cost of the destruction is usually a problem as to who will bear the cost of the destruction to these electric poles. So, Mr. Speaker, the effects of bushfires have gone beyond what is traditionally known in relation to food production, in relation to our vegetation cover, and it is now affecting even the expansion of electricity, which is very much required in the development of our country. Mr. Speaker, over the years, research has led to a number of policy, positions that have been taken. We can recall PNDC Law 46, which was repealed by PNDC Law 229. And what all those were supposed to ensure in the prevention of bushfires and also dealing with bushfires adequately. We also have come as a nation to put together a policy that was also supposed to guide how we dealt with bushfires as a country. Unfortunately, many of the very well thought out ideas in these policies remain on the shelves to gather dust. And perhaps it is about time that we made some institutions more responsible for the implementation of these policies. Because if you look at PNDC Law 229, it is quite difficult for one institution to be held responsible for its implementation or lack of it. And that is why perhaps it is important that we look at that law again and make an institution responsible for the implementation of these very beautiful ideas that are either contained in policies or in this law. Because under the PNDC 229, you realize that the district and municipal assemblies that are supposed to lead sometimes shirk the responsibility and shift it to the fire service department or even the forestry department. But because there is no clear responsibility as to who should ensure that bushfires are prevented and, infractions as spelled out
At the beginning of this meeting, advised that members should always mention their names and the constituency. This is even more so as we are in a different environment. I am informed that our brothers and sisters from the media are struggling to identify the members who are making the contribution. So please kindly always tell us your name and your constituency. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to associate myself with the statement made by Honorable Yusuf Bole Bambwe. My name is Joseph Kwame Kuma, Member of Parliament for Kintampo North. I share boundary with Honorable Yusuf. He is to the north, and my place begins the southern sector. Whatever he has brought up is true, Mr. Speaker. Bushfire has a lot of side effects on our people. It has effect on the biodiversity and soil fertility. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said already by honorable members in supporting this statement, and I add my voice onto it. Mr. Speaker, to cut the long story short, will it be allowed to propose to the nation that we accept early burning, because perennially and for years, bushfire has always been talked of. Yet, annually, we face same challenges. Where traditional leaders are able to even control their subjects not to burn, a common cigarette smoking by a driver passing by, not with the intention to burn, creates a lot of trouble. And the more the bushes dry so much, a little spark of fire, Mr. Speaker, is a lot to talk about. I don't want to say much because a lot have been said, but mine is to add my voice to that and then to ask if this honorable house could not set up a committee to check if we can advise or make laws guiding early burning so that it could be controlled, so that the bushes do not get so dry and the wires become so wide. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Let me begin by thanking the maker of the statement. Clearly a well-researched statement. And also to say that the effects of bushfires, apart from the destruction of flora and fauna, there is also the potential of food security, which, in my view, is a thrust of the matter. And that is where our focus should be as a nation. Earlier speakers have intimated the need for some amendments to existing legislation. I have done a cursory research. One of the things that come out strongly is the existence of the PNDC Law 229, the year 1990, and the PNDC Law 46, 1983. Speaker, putting these two legislation in context, the 1983 law set the tone and blazed the trail, the need for us to put some measures in place in dealing with bushfires. In the wisdom of the framers of the law, there was a remarkable improvement which bore reflection in the 229, which is the 1990, which squarely put some sense of responsibility on the district assemblies. So I dare say that the institutions exist, the laws exist. What we need to do is to depart from the passive existence of these institutions and laws by giving real meaning, giving real effect, and empowering and building the capacity of our local government structure to be able to deal with this. Speaker, the maker of the statement identified anthropogenic factors as hugely contributing to bushfires. Because we have certainty in terms of the causal effect, we are 50% through the solution. And I want to suggest that the Department of Agriculture will have to re-engage our extension officers. I'm reliably informed for a long time, the engagement of our extension officers have come as a challenge. And a certain yawning gap exists between the number of farmers and the number of extension officers we have. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's empower these extension officers. Let's empower our district officers. And I'm sure that if we are able to do this, we will not have to amend any law or build any new institutions, but then we will reap the success story. Speaker, there's a lesson we can borrow from Australia. In recent times, Australia was hit by a dramatic inferno, and that eventually led to the establishment of the Bushfire Safety Authority. Let me say that we don't need to go necessarily the same path. Let our district assemblies work. Let our opinion leaders, chief imams, pastors, assembly members, and members of parliament devote a few of their times focusing on this campaign and crusade. And I'm sure that we will overcome this menace fought with as a nation. Speaker, let me commend you particularly for admitting this statement as timeless as it is, and to conclude by saying that agrarian approach by way of encouraging pasture growth where bushes are bent can be overcome when our extension officers are trained, and then FBOs, farmer-based organizations, are trained accordingly. We will be able to overcome this challenge as a nation. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Member, I think that should be the last. Then we'll move on to the next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Ibrahim Murchala Mohammed. MP for Tamale Central. And thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my uncle, even though he's not living by that responsibility. Mr. Speaker, there is no denying the fact that the challenge of bushfires have been with us for decades, if not centuries. I had the privileged opportunity to serve in the Seat Parliament. And at the time, I was representing a rural constituency. And I remember that in all the 4 years I served in the Parliament, not a single year passed without a statement made on the effect of bushfire. And at that time, I took the pains to go through the archive. And I realized that the previous parliaments, every single parliament, 2, 3, or 4 statements will be made on the havoc of bushfires. I shudder to think that in the next 10 years, if some of us are alive and represented in this house, statements will be made on the effects of bushfires. Because the reason is simple. When we formulate policies wrongly, one can easily predict the failure of those policies. At any point in time, we have these statements made in this august house. Laws are enacted. The laws are sometimes enforced. Policies are formulated. The policies to a very large extent are implemented. The question we haven't asked ourselves is that why is it that with all these laws enacted, PNDC law this, PNDC law this, policy this by every government in this country, yet we still talk about the effects of bushfires, not only in this house, but I believe that in the policy direction and implementation of every government, it comes to that same point. And Mr. Speaker, permit me to quote Albert Einstein, who once said that the significant problem that confront us can never be solved with the thinking we had when we created them. The problem of bushfires, to a very large extent, are our own creation. And it boils down to the kind of policies. I know, and my colleagues from the 5 northern parts of the country are well aware, that some of these fires in the bushes are not accidentally caused, but they are deliberately set ablaze because it is sometimes a fulfillment of a century-long practices that every year certain bushes must be set ablaze so people can engage in what they call in the Dagbani purely a local hunting. So it is deliberately set ablaze. I have been a victim of bushfires because my farm has ever been gutted. Just this year, the NDC regional chairman in Northern Region had his entire farmland gutted. No year passes without some of these incidences. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the way forward is in formulating the policies, the people for whom those policies are formulated need to play a critical role in those policy formulations. It doesn't take any rocket science to tell the policy formulators that sit with the people, you know where those bushes are. Bushes that are bent in fulfillment of century-long cultural practices. That we need to sit with those people and let them understand that yes, we may respect the cultural values that they engage in for centuries, but the effect of it, these things unfortunately do not happen. We sit somewhere in the air-conditioned rooms, we formulate the policies, we sit in this august house, we enact the laws, we amend the laws, and then we postulate that amending and enacting these laws, we have found a panacea to the century-long bushfires and the consequences, effects of it on us. Until such a time that the people for whom those policies are implemented are made part and parcel of policy formulation, I'm sorry that we'll come back here 10 years' time to make similar statements on the effects of bushfires. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I think that we must take a position. And I am happy that there are would-be ministers who are with us. This should not be an abated talking that as we experience here. We need to walk the talk, and we need to get the experts involved when we are formulating policies, and let them sit with the people. Those bushfires that are occasioned as a result of the fulfillment of century-long cultural practices are put somewhere, so that 10 years' time, I may stand here and say, yes, we have done it together. And with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable members, I believe that, yes, Honorable, is that James Abeji?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just a few points I want to raise before the member came in. So if you permit me, I'll make some few points on the statement.
Please go on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my contribution to this statement is going to be in the form of questions. That is bushfires a new phenomenon in Ghana? Definitely the answer is no. Have we as a country ever costed the effects of bushfires? Not to the best of my knowledge. Because if we have done, probably would have taken serious action on how to overcome it. Do we have laws governing or to control bushfires in Ghana? Yes, we have. Have we been implementing those laws? And how effective are those laws? Do the MMDAs have bylaws on how to control bushfires? Yes, some do not. Are we failing in a fight against bushfires? I think the answer is yes. So, Mr. Speaker, if all these things are anything to go by, is there the need for us to charge some sector ministers to take a second look at the effect of bushfires? And if we can, as a country, take concrete steps so that we don't come back next year to talk about bushfires again, because it looks like, as said by earlier speakers, we are not doing enough in order to fight bushfires. Education alone, early education alone, could solve or go away to reduce the effect of bushfires or the number of bushfires that we have as a country. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important statement that you have admitted. We thank you for that. And, Mr. Speaker, if we can invite you to direct that something be done about it. Let us not leave the statement and the contributions here on this floor. We should go beyond the House so that we can have solution to this problem. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And I think we should express appreciation to the maker of the statement that you've heard today. Mr. Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement for coming out with a well-crafted, well-researched paper. And I think going forward, that really should be how statements that are made in this House should be formulated. Because this House, we do not only deliberate on matters that come before us, but we also inform people, Ghanaians, about what they should be taken seriously as a people. Mr. Speaker, the nature of the statement that has been made today, I really, really commend to colleagues in the chamber who intend making statements. Mr. Speaker, but I agree with the last but one contributor who said to us that statements on bushfires have become ritualistic in this House. Every year we have a couple of statements made on bushfires. And bushfires themselves have also become perennial. They're happening always, and we are making statements always. As a nation, what should we be doing? And I want to believe that the next time around, this House should come leading the way as to what, as a nation, we must be doing. So I don't expect to see or hear a statement being read. Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that you will lead us on to come with a motion on what, as a nation, we should be doing to conquer the menace of bushfires. Mr. Speaker, at the turn of the 19th century, the country Ghana did not exist. But what eventually became known as Ghana had a forest cover of over 13 million hectares. At the turn of the 20th century, it had reduced from 13 million to 8.6 million hectares. At the turn of the 21st century, it had climbed further down to 1.2 million hectares. As we speak today, the forest cover of this country is less than 700,000 hectares. The Speaker, that is dangerous for the survival of the people, the citizens of this country. And it's important that something drastic is done about this. I'm not alluding to the effects of bushfires alone as degrading our forest cover, but it's a major contributor to the devastation of the forest cover of this country. The Speaker, the maker of the statement has already alluded to the effect on the national economy, the devastation of the economy, modifying soil characteristics, and the destruction of flora, both flora and fauna, the loss of lives, loss of property, the threat to food security. Mr. Speaker, all these are matters that should concern us, which is why I'm saying to us that next time around, there should be a formulation about how to confront this and the way forward for us as a country. Some proposals already have come by way of intensifying education, by at the community level, having the Ghana Fire Service to train volunteers, the involvement of localites, the local communities in owning the process of combating bushfires. Mr. Speaker, all these are, I believe, important solutions to resolving this. I agree with the person who spoke last when he said to us that we should have the communities, the local communities, own the system. The Speaker, I have always insisted that it is not by happenstance that when you move crossing the border at Paga and entering Burkina Faso, from Paga to Ouagadougou, which is a much more Sahelian environment and which is drier, the Speaker, is greener than the northern portions of our country. It's because of the conscious effort of Burkina Faso to combat the menace of bushfires. Mr. Speaker, they capacitate their local assemblies to fight bushfires. We don't. We don't. And the cost of these, the devastation of destruction of bushfires, and put the burden on the assemblies, which is why when they see you setting fire, they may even lynch you. Not so for us. The Speaker, the few trees that we have in our Sahelian environment, we are still cutting them down and burning them, the charcoals. So Burkina Faso citizens cross to Ghana to buy charcoal and send to Burkina Faso. They protect what they have. We destroy what we have. So there should be a conscious, multifaceted effort on the part of government, on the part of the assemblies, on the part of members of parliament. The Speaker, the Constitution enjoins us to enact appropriate laws, and I'm quoting Article 240 of the Constitution, to ensure that functions, powers, responsibilities, and resources are at all times transferred from the central government to local government. Do we do that? The law enjoins us in Article 240, 2b, that Parliament shall by law provide for the taking of such measures as are necessary to enhance the capacity of local government authorities to plan, initiate, coordinate, manage, and execute policies in respect of all matters affecting the people within their areas. Do we do that? Parliament is obligated to establish for each local government unit a sound financial base with adequate and reliable sources of revenue. Mr. Speaker, have we done that? So we charge the assemblies with more and more responsibilities, but we don't enact appropriate laws to have them function efficiently and effectively. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm saying to us that we have also been a bit negligent. The laws already in place are not functioning or being implemented effectively. So government, the executive is also to blame. Parliament is also to blame. The citizens are also to blame. Let's come together and have better formulation of measures to confront bushfires, because at the end of the day, the Speaker, the side effects far outweighs any benefit. That is, if at all there is any benefit in setting fire to our bushes. I don't think there are any benefits. Mr. Speaker, we need to confront this together. I thank you for the space granted, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, honorable members. Two statements have been made this afternoon on very important subject matters. In order not for the House to be like John the Baptist in the wilderness, I urge both the Education Committee and that of Defense and Interior to reach out to the sector ministries to take a critical look at the subject matters. Please kindly look at all issues concerning the two subject areas, issues including financing, the institutional arrangement, and policy. In this connection, I direct the Clerk to Parliament to submit to the ministries concerned the full text of the statements together with the contributions of members to the sector ministers. It is my expectation that in a year's time, the committees will be in the position to present reports to the House with recommendations as to how Ghana could surmount the menace of bushfires and improve on particularly the curricula of education in this country. We seem to have lost very basic values and principles in our education sector. Issues of discipline, of patriotism, ethics, and so many things. And no country develops without these fundamental building blocks. And so let's together with the sector ministers, take a deep look into these areas. I believe that is part of the responsibilities of the committees under Article 103 of the Constitution. I so direct. As stated earlier on, I have been informed that our brotherly, sisterly country, India, is celebrating their Independence Day today. And so we want to support them, commemorate it with them, and I'm told two gentlemen want to make short statements in respect of this. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the issue about your directive to the committees, you did not mention local government. On the issue of the bushfires, we think that the local government ministry is very important in the issue about the bushfires. So I just want to draw your attention to this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, you are correct. So the local government and rural development committee is also to be part of this whole exercise. Yes, the third statement. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Patrick Buama, Okaikwe Central. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to make this short statement on the 72nd Republic Day of the good people of India. Mr. Speaker, the relationship between Ghana and our parliament dates centuries ago, and it is very important that this House acknowledges such an important day in the lives of the Indian people. Mr. Speaker, last parliament, under your good leadership, the Committee on Foreign Affairs met with a lot of ambassadors, including the Indian High Commissioner to Ghana. Following from that, the Yendi water supply system came to being, that the Indian government, through the Indian Exim Bank, supported the government of Ghana with an amount of $30 million to provide potable water for the good people of Yendi and its environs. The government of India also provided an amount of $150 million for agricultural mechanization under the AMSEC program. I'm also informed that they've provided an amount of $6 million to build a Foreign Affairs Institute, which is at an advanced stage. Talk about the $9 million support project for the fish processing factory, and also an amount of $11 million for waste management. Mr. Speaker, what can we learn from the Indians? They become a giant of the world that you cannot do away with. In the area of pharmaceutical, education, technology, agriculture, the world is leaning towards India for a solution. And I think Ghana stands to gain a lot by collaborating with the good people of India. We must take advantage of all the treaties and the provisions under our constitution from Article 73 to 75 and also Article 40 to foster a stronger relationship between Ghana and India so that we derive the needed benefit. Mr. Speaker, to end my short ceremonial statement, I've been following the National Day in India and also the contributions in the Indian Express and the Hindustan Times and the effect of COVID on the Indian people, and we commiserate with the people of India and ask that they continue to support Ghana and collaborate with us towards our forward march towards total development, Mr. Speaker. On this day, we wish the good people of India well and wish Ghana to well. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Most grateful, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this statement, which has been made by my colleague, the Honorable Patrick Buama. This is a statement that commemorates the 72nd Republic Day of the Republic of India. India has been a very good friend of Ghana. Indeed, before we attained independence in 1957, India was one of the first countries of the world to establish diplomatic ties with the then Gold Coast in 1953, when they established the first consulate in Accra. Since then, Ghana and India has maintained very strong bilateral relations. Our first president, the Osajefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was a very, very good friend to the first Prime Minister of India, the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And the two of them led other world leaders to establish the non-aligned movement, which was always a commitment that Ghana and India had in geopolitics of the world, that we will not look left or right. We believe that we should rather unite. The world should come together, and that this bipolar East and West bloc would only lead to more disintegration, conflict, and strife, and that the only way forward was for countries to come together and forge a common bond, a partnership that will move the world forward. And many, many years down the lane, it is obvious that Nkrumah and Nehru had the right vision for global politics. And it is that approach, that non-aligned movement, which has now been adopted in multilateralism, in bilateral approach towards world affairs. Mr. Speaker, we also do know that Ghana and India have had great monuments that we can celebrate. The support we received from India in the establishment of the seat of government, the building of what is now called the Jubilee House, it is a testament of the Ghana-India bilateral relations. And I recall that under President Mahama, they also extended further support to renovate the seat of government and also to expand other infrastructure, the Foreign Affairs Institute, which my colleague spoke of. Ghana, India has a lot in common. These two countries were under British colonial rule. The approach that was adopted by Mahatma Gandhi is quite similar to what Kwame Nkrumah and our forebears adopted. The non-violent approach, using more of persuasion, using the intellectual ability, and ensuring that we strive for our common goals and objectives without bloodshed, without cutting heads, and without destroying property. So that peaceful approach which Mahatma Gandhi pursued in India is what we also adopted. I will argue, Mr. Speaker, that we were even more successful because at independence, we were able to bring all the territories of Ghana together, all parts of Ghana together under one unit. Unfortunately for our good friends in India, because of the Hindu Islamic factors, they could not form one bloc. And so Pakistan was created separately as an Islamic state, and then India became the Hindu republic, so to speak. So we have a lot to learn from each other, the way we have progressed cohesively as a country, Christians, Muslims, traditionalists, existing without any strife, any tensions. We believe that that should continue so that other countries will learn from us. There is a point, Mr. Speaker, that my colleague made about COVID and how we can collaborate. And Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize that point. As we speak, India, which is the world's largest democracy, the biggest democracy in the world, has also launched under Prime Minister Narendra Modi the world's biggest vaccination program. And as we know, India is the home of the pharmaceutical industry. Most of the world's global pharmaceutical giants are based in India. And India has just announced the biggest vaccination program, targeting 300 million Indians. We are still in talks with WHO and with other bilateral partners. We should use this day to rekindle that friendship that exists between the two countries, and let's see our government enter into bilateral agreement with India so that what India has rolled out, they have successfully secured a vaccine, they have manufactured it, and they are inoculating 300 million of their nationals. The only way to fight this pandemic is a global approach. If individualism sets in and countries are only focused on their countries, the pandemic would not be successfully fought. It's a global crisis and it requires a global solution. So on this day, as we celebrate the Republic Day of India, let's rise up to the most urgent need and the most urgent crisis that confronts the world, which is COVID-19, and how we can, through bilateral diplomatic relations, forge a response that can immediately address these issues. I know that Prime Minister Modi certainly has an obligation towards his people primarily, but this is a global threat. And the Commonwealth can come together and we can have a more, if you like, a broad-based approach, which is not inward-looking, but which is more of a global partnership that will allow for all countries to receive the kind of support and the kind of urgent response that is needed to address this pandemic and to defeat it, because we cannot continue this way. I must also extend commiserations to our good friends in India. They are one of the countries that has been very, very devastated. They have recorded over 10 million cases. Reach out to help one another, especially the less endowed and the so-called second and third world countries. We must, in the spirit of the non-aligned movement that the two presidents started in forging global partnership, let us see that spirit rekindled so that we can all rise to the current challenges of this pandemic, of climate change, of the migration crisis, global unemployment, and the many other cascading effects that COVID-19 has brought upon us. It started as a health crisis, but it's no longer just a health crisis. It's affected businesses, aviation sector, economy, education, and all other sectors, really. So, very timely statement. The good people of India be remembered in these times, and may Ghana-India relations live long, and may we continue to have a strong bond of friendship between the two countries. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Sometimes I find it difficult to resist such opportunities of sharing some global wisdom with members, since we are national leaders and we need to lead by example. It is true that India has been and is still an inspiration to Ghana. We are learning from them, but I don't think we are taking the most important lessons from India. I want to recall and draw your attention to some of the wise counsel of the Indian Prime Minister Mahatma Gandhi, particularly so as we are political leaders. And I'll mention just 4 of them, which he referred to as blunders. And these blunders lead to the annihilation of societies and countries to fall into become failed states. One of those blunders, he said, was politics without principles. politics without principles. The second one was wealth without work. Wealth without work. The third is knowledge without character. Knowledge without character. And the fourth is pleasure without conscience. I think this rings a bell and is food for thought for all of us. With this, I think we come to the end of statement, and we'll move to the order paper and look at the business as itemized. We'll go to the commencement of public business. We'll take item 5, presentation of papers. By the leadership of the House, Roman 1, report of leadership on the constitution of the membership of the Pan-African Parliament. Leadership. Are those papers not ready?
Right, Honorable Speaker. The report is not ready.
In fact, the clerk at table just informed me that the report is not only that one, but also Roman 2, and even item 6, 7, 8, and 9 are not ready. And so what we have to do is to take item item 5A, B, and then take item 6. So 5A and B are accordingly honorable members will postpone consideration of item 5A and B, and I'm proposing that we take item 6. There is an urgent motion, so we have at least adjourned a number of times on the motion. I think we are building consensus on it, and I don't think it will take quite a long time to resolve on this matter. Let me hear from the proposer of the motion, Honorable Mama Yarga, the Honorable Member for Boko Central.
Right Honorable Speaker, if it is your pleasure, I stand ready to move the motion. Mr. Speaker, this motion has been withheld for a couple of sittings. You asked that I engage my colleagues on the other side who had issues with the rendition of the motion. We did discuss, and several amendments were made to the motion, and the current rendition, I presume, reflects both my own commitment and the views expressed by colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And so I stand ready to move the motion, but I've just got signal from leadership, Mr. Speaker, that in view of the funeral and other considerations, they want to propose that we take the motion on Thursday. But, Mr. Speaker, you recall that this is an urgent motion. The students are struggling across the country to pay their fees. If we wait until Thursday, many more students will be adversely affected. And so I will urge that we proceed to consider the motions and take a decision, Mr. Speaker. We're either voting for it or voting against it, and let the students know their fate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You recall that some objections were raised to the substance and form of the motion, and I overruled those objections, but also promised to come back with the reasons. And because the motion has not been moved, or I shouldn't say moved, because we've not gone back to continue with the deliberations of the motion, I've withheld my ruling. I really got the sense from the leadership that because of the solemn nature of today, we should not debate the motion, but I may crave the indulgence of the House to read my ruling so that you can take it along. Tomorrow is the funeral, and we'll be caught up at the Independence Square. This is also a very urgent matter, and our students who are our children, our guardians, will not be happy with us continuously adjourning the motion. But the situation too is such that we can't continue with the motion. So I want to plead with them to bear with us, because a lot of work has been done on it. But just to read my ruling, so that on Thursday when we come back, we just go straight to debate and move the consequential resolution on the matter. So this is the ruling of the Right Honourable Speaker in respect of the preliminary objections raised to the private member's motion moved by the Honourable Muhammad Yarga, the Member for Parliament of Boko Central, on the 20th of January 2021. Honorable members may recall that on Wednesday, the 20th of January 2021, I gave my ruling on objections raised to a motion moved by the Honorable Mama Yarga, MP for Boko Central, and seconded by the Honorable Peter Kwasi Nochikotoy, Akashinov, but reserved reasons for a later date. The Honorable Mama Yarga's motion was captured in the order paper of 20th January 2021, and it says as follows: that this House resolves to request the President of the Republic of Ghana to take urgent steps to suspend the payment of admission fees by new entrants into public tertiary educational institutions for the 2020-2021 academic year as part of the national COVID-19 relief programs being implemented by government, unquote. Honorable members will also recall that I informed the House on Tuesday, 19th January 2021 of the motion that I had admitted and indicated that it be moved on Wednesday, 20th of January 2021. On the said Tuesday, 19th January 2021, I indeed proceeded to read out the text of the motion to the plenary of the House and directed the table office to place it on the order paper for Wednesday, 20th of January 2021. My ruling in respect of the objections that were raised was that the motion was competent and relevant in the light of current happenings in the country. I also ruled that the motion was duly admitted based on the procedures prescribed by our standing orders. I now proceed to set forth the reasons for my rulings on the matter. The preliminary objections were primarily to both the form and substance of the motion. The issues for the nation can be summarized as follows. 1, whether or not the motion, as admitted by Mr. Speaker, moved and seconded, is incompetent and ought to be dismissed. And 2, whether or not the amendment to the motion as moved by the Honorable Muhammad Yaga was procedurally defective and in breach of the standing orders. Honorable members, I shall proceed to deal with each of the issues of law and of procedure in accordance with the standing orders and the Constitution of Ghana. Issue 1, whether or not the motion as admitted by Mr. Speaker moved and seconded is incompetent and same ought to be dismissed. A motion as defined in Order 7 of the standing orders of this House says, and I quote, is a proposal made by a member of Parliament or a committee to do something, order something to be done, or express an option or express an opinion concerning some matter, unquote. Order 50 provides the scope and framework for motions on specific matters of urgent public importance. A motion of urgent public importance may be admitted by the Speaker to be moved if, before the commencement of the sitting, the member submits to the Speaker a written notification and statement of the matter to be raised. Order 53 vests discretionary power in the Speaker to determine whether a matter should have urgent consideration. In exercising this power, the Speaker shall have regard to the extent to which it, quote, concerns the administrative responsibilities of the government or could come within the scope of ministerial action, unquote, and the, quote, probability of the matter being brought before the House within a reasonable time by other means, unquote. The right to move such a motion is subject to a list of conditions, including, but not limited to, whether the matter proposed for discussion relates to a genuine emergency and calls for immediate and urgent action. When the Speaker satisfies himself after having regard to all the prerequisites and determines that such motion be admitted, the member who submitted the motion shall be allowed to move the motion accordingly. This particular motion relates to a genuine emergency requiring urgent consideration. The fact that tertiary institutions have been directed by government to reopen testifies to the urgency of the matter raised by this motion. Honorable members, to render such a motion as incompetent, it must be proven that the motion, having regard to its wording, does not have the capacity to do the thing for which it has been tabled before the House. Honorable members, the objection relating to this motion is that its wording lacks clarity and does not reflect the true state of affairs. As public tertiary institutions, it is claimed, do not pay admission fees. Several members from the majority also argued that such a motion does not impose any course of action on the President based on the wording. Admission fees, as used in the context of the motion before this House, is a fee charged for admission to a public tertiary institution. It is a well-known fact that these institutions, in handing out letters of admission, request the admittee to pay an admission fee before he or she will be enrolled in and permitted full access to the school as a student. The wording on its face cannot therefore be the basis for rendering same as incompetent. Other terms were used like user fees and others, but as I drew earlier on, the phrase was not just admission fee, but admission fees, which is a general term covering other fees that are charged students. Honorable members, the huge impact on the livelihoods of Ghanaians brought on by COVID-19 pandemic cannot be overemphasized. It is my ruling, therefore, that the substance of the motion is unassailable and shall be allowed to prevail in the interest of the parents, guardians, students, and the institutions concerned. Having been so determined, the motion as moved and seconded will not be dismissed. As a corollary to this issue, it was also argued that Parliament passed LI 2216, and the President has no power to suspend its operation. That the motion, if passed by the House, would amount to usurpation of the powers of Parliament and operate to annul a legislative instrument. Honorable members, nothing is further from the position of the law than this contention. Parliament's power to make laws and annul same, if it deems necessary, is a power that goes to the very core of our democracy. Thus, requesting by means of a motion that the President takes steps to carry out an act translate into compelling the President to ignore applicable legislation, I do not think that is the case. The motion, as crafted, suggests and proposes that the President takes steps to suspend the payment of fees for the 2020-2021 academic year. It is clear that the only person on whose behalf the suspension of the operation of any law may be done is the President. It is indeed the President on whose behalf most legislative measures are instituted in the House. It therefore lies in the President's hands, if he is so minded, to initiate the process for the suspension of the payment of fees pursuant to the Fees and Charges Amendment Instrument 2014 LI 2216. To suggest that this motion would effectively suspend the operation of this law and grant the President a power he cannot execute is simply untenable. The motion as it stands simply asks that the House proposes to the President to take steps whose steps include, but not limited to, bringing appropriate legislation to the House, asking that an appropriation be made in respect of same. I therefore hold that this motion is not incompetent, as it does not amount to a usurpation of the powers of the House, and the House will not be engaging in or condoning an illegality by considering this motion. Issue 2, whether or not the amendment to the motion as moved by the Honorable Muhammad Yarga was procedurally defective and in breach of the standing orders of this House. In respect of this issue, the objection as raised by the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader, Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin, Member of Parliament for Efutu constituency, and supported vigorously by the Honorable Majority Leader, Honorable Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, the MP for Swami constituency, is that the member, in an attempt to amend the motion, ought to have provided notice of same since the motion was brought on notice, and that the member could therefore not seek refuge under Order 78(9). Honorable members, Order 78D reads, and I quote, unless an order otherwise provides, unless any order otherwise provides, notice shall be given of any motion which is proposed to make, except the following. And the relevant one is D. A motion to amend a motion of which no notice is required, or which is debated 24 hours after notice has been given, unquote. Honorable members, this motion was not brought on notice. The motion was brought under Order 51 and 2, requesting I approve that the motion be moved as it referred to a matter of urgent public importance. Order 51 states as follows, and I quote, at the time appointed for the purpose under Order 53, that is, order of business, any member may, with the prior approval of Mr. Speaker, move a motion on a specific matter of urgent public importance, unquote. And Order 53(2) says, quote, a member who decides to make such a motion shall, before the commencement of sittings, submit to Mr. Speaker a written notification and statement of the matter to be raised, unquote. After a careful scrutiny and reading of the orders, I admitted the motion as an urgent motion to be moved on the floor of the House on the 19th of January 2021. It was during the sitting of 19th of January that I elected to defer the movement of the motion to the following day in view of the public importance of this subject matter. The motion was therefore caught squarely within the ambit of Order 78K. Honorable members, as you know, Order 78 provides a list of exceptions covering those situations where a motion may be moved on the floor of Parliament without prior notice. Under Order 78K, I quote, any motion, the agency of which is admitted by Mr. Speaker, unquote, may be moved without notice. Once a motion has been admitted as urgent, the exemption in Order 78D would apply in extenso. In that matter, a member may make an amendment to a motion of which no notice is required without notice. In the light of the above, it is my ruling that this motion was admitted as urgent on a specific matter of urgent public importance, to wit, payment of admission fees by students of public tertiary institutions, consequent on government's directive for tertiary institutions to open, The amendment to the motion by the Honorable Mahama Ayaga was therefore appropriate and in accord with Order 78D. Simply put, I rule that the motion, as admitted, moved, and seconded, is competent and of an urgent public importance. I further rule that the motion was properly brought before the House. In that sense, both the substantive and the procedural objections raised are without merit and are accordingly hereby dismissed in limine, dated 26 January 2021. I thank honorable members for your attention. Any guidance from leadership? Yes.
Speaker, we have provided some guidance to the House as to how to proceed on the motion that has been moved by the Honorable Member for Boko Central, Mr. Mahama Ayariga. And the House definitely will do what is required to be done as you have proposed on Thursday. We have agreed to observe the solemnity of the occasion provided today by what we have done with the commencement of the funeral for our former President, Flight Lieutenant General John Rawlings. So, Mr. Speaker, we act accordingly on Thursday. And I believe that when we come to the debate, the guidance that you have offered to guide us may perhaps also have to come under some scrutiny. And we certainly scrutinize the guidance. We'll be informed by the guidance, but if needs be, we shall scrutinize the guidance. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for Swami, what I did is not a guidance. I have ruled, and the standing orders are clear that my rulings could be contested by members on the floor of the House. But the same standing orders have provided how that contest could be launched. And so please do the proper thing, not to take the debate of the motion and try to go through not the back door, the window, to rather contest my ruling. Honorable members, in the circumstances, I want to adjourn the House. The House is accordingly adjourned till Thursday, 27th January 2021 at 2. At 2. At 2 in the afternoon. Honorable members, I've just been reminded that we should gather here by 8:30, 8 on the dot, to move together to the Independence Square, where the funeral will be taking place. Honorable members, kindly inform your colleagues who will be willing to be part of the funeral celebration. With this, the House stands adjourned.
you.